Hey guys, this is Vadim with MaxTech, and right here I have Razer's new Blade Stealth 13-inch, the 2020 model. This actually has the GTX 1650 Ti Max-Q edition, and this is Apple's 2020 13-inch MacBook Pro. This is the $1,800 model with 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of storage, compared to the $2,000 model. This actually has the 4K display with 16 gigs and 512 as well. So in this video, we're going to be comparing everything about these laptops: the keyboards, the trackpads, the design, the ports, the performance, displays, basically everything to find out which one you should be buying in 2020. So the first thing we're going to start off with is comparing the size between these two. If I put them on top, they're actually really close. It seems like the Razer is just slightly wider and a little bit less tall. However, if you're looking at it from this angle, you could definitely tell that the Razer is quite a bit more thick. Now, what I really like about these two laptops is the unibody aluminum design. So this feels really high quality, very premium all the way around, even the hinge, all metal. And same thing with the Razer. You got metal basically everywhere, except actually this hinge, I think. Yep, this is actually plastic on the hinge. So the only thing is that this black finish, I don't know if you guys can see from that camera or from the side, it's a fingerprint magnet. I'm seeing so many fingerprints, and like literally just started this video. Compared to this is more resilient, like you can't tell with fingerprints as much. The MacBook definitely has a more stealthy design with these vents kind of over on the edges compared to the Razer, where you can see the grills. And the thing I'm worried about with this is that if you're using this on your lap, I think it has a much bigger chance of kind of overheating, not getting that good of airflow because these fans are right here. Now let's go ahead and open up these displays. Now the cool thing about the Razer is that it actually has Windows Hello. So there you go, it just logged me in just by scanning my face, which is really nice. And the MacBook just has regular Touch ID. Now the first thing I'm gonna do is take off these very annoying stickers. Oh, that does not come off easily either. Oh wow, looks like you're gonna have to like scratch this off or something. Now, one thing I actually forgot to compare real quick is the ports. On the MacBook Pro, on this side we have a headphone jack and we have two Thunderbolt 3 ports, and on the other side we get another two Thunderbolt 3 ports. Now, on the Razer, we actually just get one Thunderbolt 3 on this side, along with a regular USB-A. And then back on the other side, we have a regular USB-C, another USB-A, and a headphone jack. So you definitely get a better variety of ports with the Razer because you have that USB-A compared to just the USB-C style on the MacBook Pro. But one thing that really bugs me about the Razer is the massive bottom bezel right here. Like, there's so much room here, it's completely wasted. They could have put in a bigger display, a different aspect ratio, maybe 16:10, just to get a little bit more space there, because look at this just huge block that's just totally unused. Now, I do see the point of having a 16:9 display just for gaming, because this is a gaming focused laptop, so it's the best optimized for games. Now let's go ahead and compare the keyboards between these two. The new MacBook Pro has the new style of Magic Keyboard, so it definitely has a lot more key travel than before. It completely destroys the old butterfly keyboard, and I like that it has the key travel and it has a more kind of tactile feel with more feedback than before. However, using this keyboard on the Razer, I don't know what it is about it, but I really like it. I'd say I definitely like it more than the MacBook. It feels really good, has a lot of key travel, and it definitely has a nice amount of feedback as well. Now, one more thing about the MacBook is the touch bar, which it has its different use cases and different things you can do with it, but unfortunately a lot of people don't really like it. They'd rather have the old function keys like you get with the Razer. I personally do not like the touch bar. I'm glad that you have a physical escape key now, but I'd much rather have those function keys because I hate tapping around there and sometimes it doesn't register, so physical keys are always the best in my opinion. However, if we move on to the trackpads, the MacBook has the Razer beat. So what's special about these trackpads is that they basically have a glass panel and it doesn't move at all. It does not physically click. What happens is when you press down, they have sensors that detect the pressure, and there's basically a motor that vibrates to make it feel like it's clicking. But the best part about it is that no matter where you click, even in the corners, up, down, top, middle, anywhere, it has an even clicking feel, and you could actually go into the settings and customize the different pressures for clicks or anything else you'd like. So definitely a good trackpad compared to the Razer, where it has a diving board design, the traditional Windows diving board design, where at the top it's actually connected. So when you're trying to click, it's like incredibly hard, like you have to push pretty hard. And then near the bottom, it's like just really, really easy, but it's nowhere near as good as the MacBook. Now let's go ahead and get into the speaker comparison. I definitely noticed a good amount of volume on the Razer. The volume was there, but everything was kind of lacking. It didn't seem like it had a very broad or wide range of frequencies, especially lacking in the bass. The MacBook Pro absolutely destroyed it in terms of bass. The mids were there. The volume might have not have been as loud as the Razer, but in terms of overall sound quality, I would definitely choose the MacBook Pro instead. Now, while this speaker test was running, I noticed something very interesting about the display quality. What I'm noticing is that on the MacBook, the blacks are much deeper compared to the Razer. Like, I'm seeing a lot of reflections. I'm looking at myself like I'm looking in a mirror right now, because there's so much more reflections, and I think that's because this is actually a touchscreen display, which the MacBook is not, so that might be why there's more reflections. Now, in terms of the quality, this Razer model actually is a 4K display model, so 4K resolution, 60 Hz. They actually have a 1080p 120 Hz model for gamers, so that's definitely the option that most gamers are going to choose. This one people might choose if they're doing some kind of productivity work or something else like that, like video editing, photo editing, because this does have 100% sRGB color accuracy. Now, the MacBook Pro has the 100% sRGB, but it also has DCI-P3 on top of that, so it has about 25% more color support compared to the Razer. Now, comparing the display brightness between the two, head on, it definitely looks like the MacBook Pro is a little bit brighter, definitely brighter than the Razer, and even at maximum brightness, I'm still seeing reflections on the screen, whereas like I can't really see any reflections on the MacBook Pro, so that's a little bit annoying, even at max brightness. Now, before I get into performance, I want to quickly check the disk speed, so let's go ahead. I have AJA open right here. All right, there you go. Wow, look at that. The Razer is really impressive. We've got a almost 3,000 read speed compared to almost 2,400, and about 2,600 write speed compared to 2,200. So now let's go ahead and get into the performance comparison between these two. Now, both of these have Intel's 10th generation processors. The MacBook actually has an i5, it's a 2.0 gigahertz i5. Now, first of all, I do want to mention that I went into the battery settings, I switched it over to best performance, and not only that, but I also opened up the Razer Synapse, and I made sure to switch it to the gaming mode as well. Now, one thing I do want to mention is that you can only use gaming mode while plugged into the power, as you can see right here. If you switch over to battery, you can only get the balanced or the battery saver. Now, as I start these CPU tests, I do want to mention that they both have 16 gigs of really fast LP DDR4X RAM, 3,733 megahertz, so great on the RAM. The only downside with the Razer is that you can't upgrade to 32 like you can on the MacBook. So if you're trying to do any kind of video editing, it's a little bit of a bummer that you don't have the freedom to upgrade to 32 if you really need it. All right, so these results are totally unexpected. Even though the MacBook Pro has an i5, it's actually scoring higher on the multi-core score compared to the Razer, which has an i7. In terms of the single core, they're very, very similar, 1237 on the MacBook compared to 1253, but you're getting almost 400 more points on the MacBook Pro in terms of multi-core. Now, on the other hand, getting into performance, this is where the Razer really shines, and that's basically the whole point about this laptop right here, because it comes with a dedicated graphics chip, the GTX 1650 Ti Max-Q, compared to the integrated Intel Iris Plus graphics on the MacBook Pro. So we're gonna test Metal on the MacBook and CUDA on the Razer. Now, as this test is finishing up, I do wanna mention one more thing. The Razer Blade does have RGB keyboard backlighting, so that is definitely a nice touch, and you can go ahead and go into the settings, customize the different colors, whatever you like, compared to just basic backlighting on the MacBook Pro. Alright, so we have our results, and they are crazy in terms of graphics. On the MacBook Pro, we're getting about 9,900 metal score, compared to 42,000 on the Razer Blade Stealth. Now that is insane for a dedicated graphics chip. That is extremely impressive. Basically what this means is that this is a real gaming machine. You can play some awesome high-end games like Call of Duty Warzone, even though that's free, that's very popular right now. I'm actually gonna be testing out that game on this laptop. I think that's the next video we're gonna do. So if you're not already subscribed, and if you don't have notifications enabled, right down there, do it right now because that video is coming soon. So definitely crazy results right here. Now with that, I do actually want to test out Unigine Heaven, the gaming benchmark. So let's go ahead and open that, and that's just going to give us a good idea of the differences in gaming performance between the two. Alright, so I'm going to run this test, and I do want to mention that we always use the extreme preset. Now just by watching the test run, you could see how choppy the MacBook Pro is compared to the Razer. Definitely much better FPS. So as Unigine Heaven is finishing up, I'm starting to hear a lot more fan noise, so definitely more fan noise on the Razer, but I'm also hearing some coil whine, so it's kind of like a high-pitched noise coming from the Razer compared to a more just fan noise on the MacBook Pro, and it's definitely louder on the Razer as well, even though the GPU temp is about 65 compared to 69 there. So it looks like Unigine Heaven just finished on the Razer. 45.3 FPS. That is excellent for a thin and light gaming laptop, 13-inch, compared to 13.5 FPS on the MacBook Pro. So obviously, this cannot handle games. Maybe like the lightest games out there, Apple Arcade or something, but definitely not like regular, nice, high-end games. So really impressive performance on the Razer. Now, if you do want to do some gaming on the MacBook Pro, maybe using Boot Camp to install Windows 10, we definitely recommend hooking it up to an eGPU system with the 5700 XT. We actually have a couple of videos where we did that, and we got really good FPS and gaming, so definitely check that out after this video. Now, the final performance test I want to run is Cinebench R20, the stress test, where it basically puts a 100% load on the processors to see how the cooling systems handle it and what kind of scores we're gonna get. So let's go ahead and run the test. All right, so the MacBook Pro just finished first, and I noticed while the test was going, both were maxed out on the fans. I definitely heard that coil noise from the Razer, and it seemed like the Razer kind of slowed down over time. Like it had a good start, but it slowed down. Now we got 1656 on the MacBook Pro, which is interesting because we actually got a maximum score of 1911. I think that was with it unplugged. I think it actually performs a little bit worse when plugged in, but that is still an excellent score. And we got 1270 on the Razer, which doesn't make sense. That difference, 1270 to 1656, that's actually substantial. And when you're thinking about i5 versus i7, you're gonna think that the i7 is more powerful, but that's actually not the case. So the processor performance definitely goes to the MacBook Pro, and it seems like the Razer is more graphics focused for gaming or maybe some productivity like video editing. Now, the last thing I do want to mention before we get into our conclusion is the battery life. Now, this is the 4K version of the Razer, and especially when you turn on the better performance and you turn on the gaming mode, what's going to happen is that you're not going to get as good of battery life as you're going to get with the MacBook Pro. Maybe you'll get around 5-6 hours compared to about 7-8 hours on the MacBook Pro, but obviously it depends on what you're doing. If you're playing a game with it not plugged in, it's going to die pretty quickly, or if you're doing very high-end video editing, it's going to die. So on average, the MacBook Pro is going to get better battery life. Now let's go ahead and answer the final question. Which laptop should you buy in 2020? Well, I'd say the Razer is more focused for gaming because of the better graphics performance, and because it has that 16:9 display, I don't think it's going to be good for productivity. Even though it's going to perform pretty well in video editing, the display is just so limiting being so small and having that bottom bezel. Of course, the keyboard is definitely really nice, so if you're doing typing, you're definitely going to have a good experience with that, but in terms of the speakers, the trackpad, other things like that, the MacBook Pro is definitely going to be the winner there. So in terms of productivity, buy the MacBook Pro, especially if you want macOS. But if you love Windows 10 and you want to do some gaming, definitely go with the Razer Blade Stealth 13-inch. So there you guys have it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this comparison. If you did, go ahead and comment down below with your thoughts on this video, and go ahead and check out the other videos we have right over there. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.